He was a heavy user of mobile phones because of his work, and he had a very aggressive brain tumour, and you can see the scars there from the operation that he had in the photos, but basically they told him the same thing. There's nothing more we can do for you. Get your affairs in order, you're going to die. And that's when he started researching, came across B17 and nutritional therapy. Once again, please, I want to make it clear, B17 is not a magic bullet. Every single story that you read here, and every story, whether they say it or not, I've communicated with the people that you'll find on my website, diet was always the main thing that they changed. And it was always a healthy diet, juices, raw juicing, raw fruit and vegetable, and diet is the most important part. You can take B17, inject it in you, eat all the kernels you want to, you're blue in the face. If you don't change your diet and make some serious changes, it's not going to help you. It's not going to help you one bit. Okay, this is the Oasis Hospital, which in 2006 celebrated over 100,000 patients healed with they were all terminally cancer patients. It was founded by Dr. Ernesto Contreras. He passed away about a year and a half ago. And if you ever, I've read his biography, and if you ever read something that would bring a tear to your eye, he was one of the most godly Christian men that I would say, I never got to meet him, but that I'd read about. His love for his patients was incredible. He treated his patients with love, he treated them naturally, and he saw many, many, many of his patients beat their cancers. It was interesting to note, he said the ones that were difficult that they didn't beat were generally ones because that patients that arrived to his clinic that have been, like Donald Factor, cooked and burnt and poisoned through chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and then told to go home and die, that there's nothing else they can do, and only then, as a last-ditch effect, and that's the unfortunate side, as a last-ditch effect, a lot of people will travel to Mexico to get the treatment, and a lot of them still, even at that stage, recover and do well. His son now, Francisco Contreras, runs the hospital, and he's a quite well-known surgeon, orthopedic surgeon and oncologist around the world. Jason Winters used 3 herbs. He travelled the world looking for a cure after being given a few months to live. Basically, in 1977, his story says a large cancerous growth appeared on the side of Jason's neck. Normal cancer treatments had little effect on the growth, and Jason was told, usual story, after chemo, after radiation, prepare to die. There's nothing more we can do. And his book, Killing Cancer, which I've read, it's an inspiring book because he goes in a graphic detail of how the chemotherapy made him feel. He went through all conventional treatments, and he's a big guy. I've actually met Sir Jason Winters. He's a big guy, and he'll tell you, they really poisoned him good. And his story, it's inspiring. But his book, Killing Cancer, sold over 13 million copies around the world. And what he did was he travelled around as a last-ditch attempt to beat his cancer. He travelled around the world because he'd heard about herbs and teas and things that were good for cancer. And he remembered, because he was actually a movie actor, he's a stuntman, sorry, and he remembered sitting around with native Indians on a movie set, and they would all have their teas, and they'd say something about it was really good for cancer, the tea that they were having chaparral, which is a well-known herb to cleanse the blood and used quite a lot against cancer. And so he saw some of that, had some, but he says because he'd smoked most of his life for about 40, 50 years, this was in his, I think, 60s when he got the cancer, 50s, 60s, that it really wasn't having an effect. Then he heard about red clover. He was originally from London, so he went back home and they'd told him about red clover, so he grabbed some of that and drank pints of red clover tea, but he still felt that it didn't make too much of a help. And all this time's getting the better of him. Actually, before he went to London, he went to Asia and found an Asian spice. He searched and searched and searched. He writes in his book, he says he found a little old Chinese lady, and she said, yeah, this will make you better. This is the herb, which it's called herbaline. I don't know too much about it. And he drank that, didn't make any good, went to London, got the red clover, and then he says he was literally on his deathbed in London, and he just felt he was going to die. That was it. He'd travelled the world. He didn't find the answer when he looked up on the shelf, and he had the 3 teas pre-made individually. And then he thought, no, all 3 of them, mix them. And he didn't realise, he knows now because they've done all the chemical tests, but by mixing the 3 teas, he made 3 individual, generally strong blood cleansers, okay, once mixed together, formed a catalyst which made a super blood cleanser almost 100 times more potent than each one individually. And he says, he describes the moment he drank that, he just felt like a rush through his body. And he said from there, he just drank gallons of the stuff. And he just felt different. He felt more energy because he was almost bedridden. And he used those 3 herbs to treat himself naturally with his cancer. And red clover for years has been known on its own as a great blood purificator and really good against cancer. Now, just to finish up, I just want to read a couple verses from the Bible which really highlight some of the things that we've been speaking about. Exodus 15:26, God makes it quite straightforward and simple. I am the Lord that heals you. Genesis 1:29, which we know, and God said, see that I have given you every herb bearing seed which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food. Also every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth in which there is life. I have given every green herb for food. James 5:15, and the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And if he have committed sins, they shall be forgiven. I'm just going to skip down to Luke 18:27, where he writes, but he said, the things which are impossible with men are possible with God. But he said, the things which are impossible with men are possible with God. And now with the pharmaceuticals, they just look at all these and they say impossible. They label anybody doing anything natural to treat cancer or any other condition a quack, because they don't understand it. They don't believe that God can cure cancer or any other disease. And finally, Hosea 4:6, which says, my people perish through lack of knowledge. And that, unfortunately, to this day is a sad truth, because when you leave this meeting, friends, you will talk to people that have cancer, you will know people that have cancer, and yet they will go through chemotherapy, they will go through radiation. And it's just sad that, unfortunately, sometimes doesn't matter what you show them, what you tell them, they will always be subject to what I call sometimes the religion of medicine, because they just won't listen. And it's those that are willing to make a change, those that are willing to look forward and to fight cancer naturally with faith in God, the way God designed it, that actually do beat it. And you don't have to look far to find story upon story upon story showing that evidence. So I do have a video to show for this afternoon, but we'll take a break for 5 minutes and we'll see how we go, because it is getting late in the day, so we might have to leave it for another time.